Institutional investors are buying homes at an alarming rate in Georgia, and especially here in the Cobb County and Marietta area. So whether you are a homeowner and you're not even thinking about buying or selling, if you're a seller or you're a buyer trying to secure a home, this video is for you, because I'm going to share with you some alarming information about what's currently happening in the real estate market and why you should be concerned and what you can do about it. So let's get started. Hi, my name is Connie Carlson, and I'm a local realtor here in Marietta, Georgia, and I put out weekly videos explaining what it's like living in Georgia and giving you some tips on what it's going to take to buy or sell your home. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, please take a few seconds to subscribe down below and make sure you mash down that bell icon so you don't miss any of my great content. Over the last couple years, we've seen more and more of these large institutional investors, and these are big funds. Sometimes they are financed through private financing, maybe even you've got some stock involved in it, and they are gobbling up the American dream. They are gobbling up homes, and they are so aggressive that the average person who's just trying to buy their first home or maybe a home for their family, they can't compete. So what I want to talk about today is exactly what's happening in our market, why this is so scary, and what you can do about it. So let's first talk about what's going on. And this was so alarming to me. I did a little digging to see what percentage of homes right now in Atlanta are being bought by these institutional investors. So there was a recent study done by Redfin, and they said at the fourth quarter of 2021, 18% of all of the homes bought nationally were being bought by these institutional investors. And I was like, wow, that is a big number, but nothing compared to what's happening to Atlanta. In fact, I was kind of surprised. The number of homes that are currently being bought by institutional investors account for almost, guys get ready, 33%. Almost 1 out of every 3 homes that are being bought in the Atlanta area are being bought by institutional investors. So you may be wondering, why are all these big money investors so interested in buying homes here in the Atlanta area? And there are a number of reasons for that. The first is we have a housing shortage, as you know, and so that means that it's harder and harder for potential homeowners, first-time home buyers, or people moving into the area. It's getting really hard for them to find a home. And if they can't find a home and they have to move anyway, they have to rent. And so the number of people renting is increasing. The age of renters is increasing higher and higher every year, which means there's more demand on rental properties. And so these big institutional investors are saying, hey, don't worry, you can have that American dream of a home. You just won't own it, you'll rent it. And just think how hassle-free that will be. And quite honestly, it just makes me want to be sick, because I have a daughter who's 23, and I have a lot of friends whose kids are finally at an age where they've saved their money, they have their deposit, and they cannot compete with these big, aggressive institutional investors. And, like Cassidy and Matt, they were so lucky. We did actually get them a house, but it was right down to the wire where they were going to have to sign another year lease. And so I feel like these institutional investors are trying to take advantage of that. And then what they're doing, and if you haven't been or haven't heard this, rents in America increased 15% last year. A 15% increase in rents. In fact, I have a friend whose son lives in Boulder, Colorado, and they're trying to buy a house, and they keep getting outbid by other investors, and they just got a letter from their landlord that their rent's going to increase 65%, y'all. Like, inflation, that's way higher than what salaries are increasing. And so now we have inflation in groceries and gas, and then throw on top of that, the cost of living is going up so high for these young adults that I feel like it's a spiral. Like, how are they going to get out of this spiral? It's scaring me, and it's keeping me up at night. And it should keep you up at night too. Because if institutional investors are buying 1/3 of all the properties right now in Atlanta, I don't know about you, but when I'm in a neighborhood, a lot of times you can tell which house is owned and which house is rented, because when people rent a house, they don't have that pride of ownership. They maybe don't take as good a care of it as somebody who owns the property. And I've got a lot of friends that are investors and they buy houses and they rent them out. People in my family, I've even done some of that. And when I own it and I'm a small-time investor, maybe that house is in my community, I'm checking on it and making sure it stays good and nice. But I'm a little bit concerned when Wall Street owns the house and they're up in New York or wherever they are. How do we know that they're going to maintain the integrity of our neighborhoods and the houses? And what if that house is the house across the street from you or your next door neighbor, and the next thing you know, it's falling apart and it impacts the value of your house? So even if you're not thinking about buying or selling right now, you should definitely be concerned that corporations are buying up these neighborhoods. So let me just take a minute to give you a real life example to just give you an idea of what buyers in today's market are up against. So let me explain first what type of homes they tend to look for. Institutional investors want homes in neighborhoods where there are no rental restrictions. So usually those are neighborhoods that have no HOA anymore, or there's an HOA that allows rentals. And then they're looking for properties that are in that, I would say, 3-bedroom, 2-bath range, and anywhere priced. Now, I'm going to talk about Marietta. Now, I know it's going to be different in different parts of the Atlanta area, but in our area, I'm seeing institutional investors making offers on properties all the way up to $400,000 and beyond. So let me give you a real life example. We were going to list a house for $330,000. It was in East Cobb. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. My seller had replaced some of the carpet, painted the house. It was move-in ready. It was perfect for a first-time home buyer or even a local investor who wanted to do rental or even flipping it. Because if somebody comes in to flip a property, they're improving your neighborhood, right? But we had this house in a coming soon status. So it was listed in the MLS, but it was not available to the public. It was not available for the public to tour the home, nor are we allowed, when we're in coming soon status, to accept or negotiate any offers. And so it was 5 days before we were going live to the public, and I get an email from an institutional investor with an offer. Guys, it was cash. It was $30,000 over our asking price. It was a 14-day close, and they gave us 24 hours to respond. So I wrote them back an email and said, thank you for that wonderful offer, but we are in coming soon, and we are not allowed to negotiate offers during coming soon. And their response was, we don't really care about that. We'll give you $3,000 more money, but we're not changing the time limit of our offer, which in my opinion was a little quite aggressive. And it kind of put my seller between a rock and a hard place because he really didn't want to sell to an institutional investor. He believes in supporting the American dream, which so many of my clients thankfully do. But he was also looking at an extra $30,000 over an already high list price. And that was putting the seller in a very hard situation. And in the end, he said, nope. No one's going to bully me because I worked too hard to get this house ready, and this institutional investor is not going anywhere. So a week later, if we don't have any offers, we'll just go back to them and they'll probably still be there. So we took our chances and said, no, thank you, and put it on the market. And thankfully, we found a owner-occupant, a young man, who gave us the same price and was actually able to secure the property. But thank God we did, because I think there are a lot of sellers out there right now that are getting these propositions before they even put it on the market, and they're selling them. And so these houses, we're already in a housing shortage for these entry-level homes, and these are homes that the typical American would buy. You know, these are the homes based on, if you look at what the average income is in our area, these are the homes that they're supposed to be buying. And they don't even have a chance right now. And so it's really scary. So what can you do? That's what we need to talk about, is not just complain about it, but we can do something about it. The first thing that we can do as homeowners is, if you do live in a neighborhood that has an HOA, get involved with your annual or biannual HOA meetings, or even reach out to your HOA president and become aware of what the rental restrictions are in your HOA. Make sure that they are stringent enough that you won't fall prey to all these institutional investors gobbling up the properties in your community. Another thing that's happening is there are institutional companies that are literally building entire neighborhoods, entire communities of houses that could be used to fulfill the dream of American homeownership. I know of one, in fact, up in Woodstock, where all of the homes are being built for rental only. And so get involved with your local planning and zoning department. If you see a property that's going to be up for a variance notice, find out what that property owner is hoping to do with that. And if it's something like one of these big rental communities, you may want to get involved in the local zoning and planning meeting and voice your opinion and be vocal.
All right. Now, who's for the Bill of Rights? Come on, let's see those hands.
If you are a buyer, you are struggling to compete with these institutional investors, especially if you don't have cash, because at the end of the day, cash is still king. So talk to your realtor, or even click down below. I've got my calendar link to my Google Calendar, and schedule a short 15-minute call with me. We do have some options to help you make cash offers. There are a lot of good opportunities now for buyers who need financing, whether you have to sell your house in order to buy the house, or you're just trying to buy your first house. We do have some great solutions for you to get around that and make a cash offer and potentially get in that house. And then last but not least, I feel like these investors are trying to gobble up as much as they can before the government and legislation can catch up to them. So write to your local congressman or your senator and tell them you're concerned with this and you're afraid of what's going to happen to America if we lose American homeownership. Please comment below on what you're seeing in your market, or with any questions that you may have for me. Hey, before you leave, make sure you check out this video right here, where I share with you what home buyers can do if they are in a multiple offer situation to sweeten that deal. Thanks for watching. And now let's go check out that video.